Assalamualaikum and greeting everyone. Welcome to my final year project presentation. I'm Norfatin Najwa Binti Zolkifli, a final year student in Bachelor of Science Honours Biodiversity Management. And title of my FYP is Host and Substrate Preferences of Macrofungi in the Sri Gading Forest, UiTM Pahang. I'm supervised by my lecturer, Dr. Nur Azliza Ismail. First, let's begin with introduction that consists of background of study, problem statement, and objectives of study. Two phyla from the kingdom of fungi are ascomycetes and basidiomycetes, which are large, easily visible spore-bearing structures that grow above or below ground. They are classified into several types, such as agarics, bolids, brackets, puffballs, and many others. Previous recent study by Nur Awiyah in 2017 was the first documentation of macrofungal species in the Sri Gading Forest. She managed to identify 7 species and 10 genera from 24 collected samples. The findings of this study were great importance as a first step in determining the diversity of macrofungal species in the forest. UiTM Pahang is known as Kampus Khazanah Alam by its community and others. The diversity of biological organisms in the campus are considered underexplored and poorly documented, although the campus has its educational forest, which is the Sri Gading Forest. Furthermore, the host and substrate of the collected samples are omitted in the previous study. The objectives of study are to collect and to identify the macrofungi of the Sri Gading Forest, UiTM Pahang, based on macromorphological characterization, to determine the host and substrate preferences of macrofungi of the Sri Gading Forest, UiTM Pahang, and to assess the diversity of macrofungi in the Sri Gading Forest. First, identify study area in the Sri Gading Forest. Second, use simple random sampling. Third, identify host and substrate of macrofungi by classifying them into soil, dead wood, leaf litter, and living tree. Next, collect specimens by using a bush knife and keep them in the paper bags. The photos of macrofungi were taken in situ from 3 different angles, which are top, bottom, lateral sides. The fungi were identified according to books and guides. Lastly, paleontological statistic PAS software was used to calculate the Shannon Diversity Index and Simpson Index. The altitudes of sampling location were approximately from 201 meter to 400 meter above sea level. According to Chan ETAL 2019, forests with an elevation below 1,200 meter are classified as lowland and hill deep terokap forests. The highest elevation of the Sri Gading Forest is 391 meter above sea level. Hence, the forest is considered a lowland forest. In this study, the least number of species were noted at the lowest elevation, 201 meter to 250 meter, and the highest elevations, 351 meter to 400 meter. In contrast, middle elevations 251 meter to 350 meter recorded high number of species. The probable factors are varied, such as humidity, type of trees, microclimates, and their host and substrate, apart from elevation itself. A total of 31 families, 54 genera, and 91 species were identified. In terms of host and substrate preferences, soil noted the highest number of species with 57%, followed by dead wood 32%, leaf litter 8%, and living trees 3%. The highest distribution of macrofungi are Bolitaceae with 16 species, Polyporaceae 13 species, Marasmiaceae 9 species, and Amanitaceae 7 species. Most species that host on soil are from families Bolitaceae, Amanitaceae, and Rusulaceae. Leucocoprinus fragilissimus is extremely fragile, and its fruiting body is thin and collapsed after a few hours emerging from the soil. Its fruit body could not withstand hot and humid areas. contrasting to Amauroderma rugosum and Xylaria species. Both species are resistant to extreme conditions. Family Polyporaceae were abundantly found in deadwood. According to Shigal 2007 and Hattori et al. 2012, Microporus affinis and Earlilla scabrosa present after 2 years after the tree fell and are involved in early stages of decomposition. A rare species, Elmarina sclerodontia, was recorded for the first time in the Sri Gading Forest. This species has been proposed to be listed in the IUCN Red List due to its fragmented distribution in Southeast Asia. 9 macrofungi species that lives on leaf litter were discovered in the Sri Gading Forest. Most of them were from family Marasmiaceae. For Tetrapyrgus nigrippus, the species was commonly seen growing in pair and was recorded in Perak in 1995 by Lee et al. 2012. Macrofungi that live on living trees are the least species recorded, which include Auricularia species and Ganoderma species 1 and 2. Auricularia species is well-known food delicacies as medicine by indigenous people and Chinese. Members of Ganoderma are perennial and generally pathogens, causing white rot and red root diseases in many tree species. They prefer living on trees with a larger diameter compared to other species in Polyporaceae. Shannon Diversity Index values of 2.94, 3.85 and 4.5 were observed for 31 macrofungi families, 54 genera and 91 species respectively, whereas Simpson index values were 0.92, 0.98 and 0.99. Based on the values, it can be said that Sri Gading Forest has a high diversity of fungal species. This was supported by Nolan and Callahan 2015, of which the greater the number, the greater the diversity of species. In conclusion, the macrofungi in the Sri Gading Forest preferred soil with 51 samples as their host and substrate compared to the others. Differences in elevations influence the diversity and abundance of fungal species. Members of family Bolitaceae were the most abundantly found with 16 species. They also dominated the lower elevation of the forest, which were 250 meter to 350 meter above sea level. Shannon Diversity Index showed that the Sri Gading Forest has a high diversity of species with values of 2.94, 3.85 and 4.5, and Simpson Index values were 0.92, 0.98 and 0.99 were recorded. The recommendations for future studies are use molecular-based identification for more accurate and less time-consuming. Take note on the microclimatic environmental factors and study on nutritional and medicinal values of macrofungi collected from the forest. So that's all from me. Thank you for listening.